You're listening to Agile Ideas, the podcast, hosted by Fatima Abuchi. For anyone listening out there not having a good day, please know there is help out there. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Agile Ideas. I'm Fatima, CEO at Agile Management Office, Mental Health Ambassador, and your host. This podcast is sponsored by Agile Management Office, providing higher impact delivery execution in an agile era for scaling businesses. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the difference between capability and capacity. And the reason for that is I think sometimes when we talk about capability, organizations, people in organizations that we work with and talk to often assume that capability is simply about people and the people skills that they have. And it's not necessarily the case. Also, a lot of the time when organizations are struggling to get something done, deliver certain projects, or whatever the case may be, it's usually because they are either lacking in capacity, meaning they have the right people that they need, but they just don't have the capacity to be able to do the work. Or perhaps they actually don't have the capability, and therefore they might have the resources and the capacity, but don't in fact have the skills necessary, or maybe the foundations, the process, the frameworks, etc. So in today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between capability and capacity. I'm also going to take you through ways to actually increase capacity within your organization or your team, and then also talking about ways to improve as well. So without further ado, thanks for joining me, and let's get straight into it. So starting with regards to the difference between capability and capacity. Well, we know that organizations anywhere, just like ours, always are there to strive to do better. And regardless of the industry that you are in, we're always there to try to improve. We want to succeed, we want to grow, we want to scale. And all of those things are made possible when you have the right capability and capacity. Now, while these terms may seem very similar, they actually have distinct meanings, and they play different roles, although crucial roles, in the realm of project management, strategy, and overall organizational operations. And when we think about capacity and capability, I'm keen for you to take a moment to think about what it actually means to you when you hear those terms. I know that for a really long time, I didn't understand the meaning of capability until we ended up spending a lot more time in that space, which I'll share more about shortly. So let's start with capability. Now, when we talk about capabilities within an organization, we're actually referring to the ability to perform certain tasks or activities. Now, you see, I haven't actually mentioned people just yet. That being said, of course, we need the people to carry out those tasks or activities. So having the right capability within an organization means effectively having essential tools, processes, and skilled personnel to carry out the various functions effectively. So you see, it's not just about the people, but it's also about tools, processes, frameworks, etc. All of this, in fact, makes up the capability within an organization. If we use an example, imagine a barista who can expertly create a delicious cup of coffee. The barista's capabilities include using the coffee machine, grinding the coffee beans, making coffee, frothing the milk, and making sure that the coffee is perfect. The individual capabilities in this instance, when combined, form a cohesive set of skills that contribute to the overall success of the coffee shop. At an organizational level, the capability of an organization is the ability to develop specific capabilities that actually facilitate efficient and effective functionality throughout various departments, teams, and within the very structure of the organization. So, for example, a software development company will rely on several key competencies, such as expert-level software coding, combined with quality assurance testing, in addition to managerial skills, project management skills, customer support skills. All of that will be necessary to deliver a successful product outcome. The human element is fundamental to capabilities. So I know earlier I mentioned it's not just about the people. People are extremely important and essential because without people, we can't perform. But the skilled and knowledgeable individuals are the ones that bring to life the organization's capabilities. And that actually is them possessing the right skills, understanding the processes, and being able to implement those processes to, in fact, drive organizational success. So capabilities encompass tools, processes, and skilled personnel that are required to carry out the various functions effectively. A few key notes. Capability refers to the ability to perform specific tasks or activities effectively. Capability encompasses having the necessary tools, processes, and skilled personnel. Capability relates to components of project management strategy and organizational operations. Capability involves the development, management, maintenance, and operations of various functions. Enhancing our capabilities increases the maturity of an organization and its ability to deliver results. And examples of the capability components include tools, i.e. the coffee machine, processes, i.e. grinding the coffee beans and making the coffee, and the people, for example, the barista. So there is what is, in a nutshell, the way that we would describe capabilities. And this is extremely important because when we think about how organizations can improve their organizational capabilities, they have to focus not just on the skills of their people, but they also need to think about the other capability components. So that is the tools that they use and the processes. One of the things that we do at Agile Management Office is predominantly spend a lot of our time talking about capability, or what we've also now termed capability in a box. When we're working with organizations, we find that their challenges are typically very similar company to company. In the last 20 years of working within the project management realm, I've found that almost every organization's challenges are almost always the same. The only difference is the people that they have and also the culture of an organization. But the challenges they have around project management, the challenges they have around portfolio management, the challenges they have around governance and process, all of these things are very, very similar. Now, that's a good thing because it means that they're not alone in the challenges that they are facing, but it also means that we can help them and that you can help your teams to improve by fixing problems with tooling and processes, and then obviously reflecting on the people and the people skills that you have in your team. When we identified a pattern of challenges within these organizations, and it was really over the last sort of 7 years when I set up Agile Management Office that I was thinking about the repetitive nature of challenges that I was seeing in my corporate career. And as I was seeing these challenges time and time and time again, I thought, I keep being brought in to organizations, being paid again to do effectively very similar things. For example, in one organization, I probably actually was maybe the fourth person in 2 years that came in to fix challenges around project management and the project management office. Now, 4 people in 2 years means very, very disruptive for the project managers themselves and the teams that were operating within that environment. So when I think about back on that time, when I came in and looked at what were the challenges they were facing, being this was my, I think, second or third time in this organization, they were very much the same challenges that I had been there to fix in other teams within the same business several years prior. Now, I was being paid to fix problems that I'd previously fixed in almost the very identical way just several years prior. And it made me think there's a repetitive nature of problem solving here. And the main differentiator in solving these problems around the capabilities was actually focusing on what the people had and what the people needed. So in this particular example, I realized that there had to be a more effective way and a more efficient way of actually taking and packaging up those solutions and providing them to people so that they then can solve those problems for themselves. So it was then when I started developing out the concept of capability in a box, which effectively helps organizations by providing them the tools and the processes and the frameworks and other collateral needed to support their people, if they have the people and the capacity, or uses our people to help them bring in capacity to solve their capability challenges. There is no need to reinvent the wheel. There is no need to spend months or years trying to figure out solutions where companies have done the hard yards figuring that out before us. And so my goal was to combine that and then adding to that the key components that makes capability management key to success and successful is by adding the plus. The plus refers to people, learning, unity, and sustainability. Now, what that means is this is where capabilities without the people is useless. So we focus on the people. This is upskilling the people. So how are you upskilling your teams? It's all well and good to give them the tools and the processes, but without helping them to better their skills, how will they be better at making the coffee, so to speak? So this is where learning comes in. Now, learning is not just about sending them on a prescriptive training course. It's actually about bite-sized learning to address specific gaps in capability for those people. And the only way you know what those gaps are is to talk to them and to assess them and watch them in the way that they work and have that conversation and learn from them and understand where it is that the gaps are. Generally in a team, there's so many different skill sets, but how often do we really align those skills up together and work out that, Jenny might be really good at this and Joey might be really good at that, and really just working out how that team comes together in the most effective way so that you continue to have that flow of work. So then we've got unity. Now, unity is about unifying the team, unifying the stakeholders, and also unifying our approach. At Agile Management Office, we talk a lot about the 3 C's. It's about consistency, coordination, and collaboration. And unity is a key component of making sure that the organization and the teams, your teams, are working as collaboratively as possible. And then the S in plus refers to sustainability. Sustainability may seem like I'm talking about the environment, but not exactly in this instance. What I mean by sustainability is having the capabilities and upskilling the people in a way that drives sustainable practices that last long after you have people coming in and out, like a revolving door, which happens in a lot of companies, so that the processes can be iteratively improved, not completely thrown out and starting again. Sustainability is about that scalability. It's about uplifting the processes in a way that makes sense for your organization. It's about, if you're working with a consultancy, making sure that they are transitioning their learnings and their knowledge and their IP to your people, not just relying on them to do the work, but actually showing you how to do it as well. And so this is why I brought together Capability Plus, which is all about the development, management, and operational functioning of the tools and the processes, and then the upskilling of the people. And remember, the plus means people, learning, unity, and sustainability. And those are key essential elements that I've seen and used successfully, and you can too. So there you have my sort of broad and partly detailed overview about the capability and about Capability Plus. But beyond the capability in a box and Capability Plus concepts, One of the things we also need to consider in organizations is their appetite, their capacity. Now, capacity is pretty much more straightforward, but just to give an example and illustrate, capacity, on the other hand, relates to the organization's ability to meet its objectives and fulfill its responsibilities within a given time frame. So the time frame is really relevant, particularly when we're talking about project management, because we know all projects have a defined end. And it goes beyond the notion of simply having enough people and resources, but it delves into one of my favorite things, and that's optimizing existing resources, streamlining processes, and enhancing the proficiency of individuals and teams. So again, this isn't just about people. Capacity is not just about the people capacity. It's actually about the capacity of your workflow, the capacity of your resources, the capacity as well as optimization of the resources that you have and enhancing the proficiency of the teams and the individuals within it. So here's a few ways for you to consider uplifting and improving your organization's capacity. One of the things, which is the more obvious one, is to upskill your existing workforce. Now, a lot of organizations would have a learning management system, and depending on the size, will probably have a human resource function that has training and development and upskilling, and beyond the mandatory learning and training, there's probably also a lot of other training and uplift opportunity. So thinking about investing in learning, investing in employee learning is an investment in the future of an organization. And that means enhancing their internal skills with bespoke training programs so that teams can retain greater capabilities, so that they can individually grow, but then as a result, together, unified, will boost the organizational output capacity at the same time. As a direct result of directed initiatives that promote skill acquisition using practical coursework, mentorship, work experience, workers will experience a greater confidence added through the responsibility to assimilate fresh ideas, innovative new practices, and new knowledge that they will gain about latest industry trends. So investing to upskill the workforce first means we have to understand their current capability set, understand their capacity to learn, and then bring the two together so that you can then provide a targeted and tailored learning opportunity. I know for me personally, I'm a very visual learner, and I'm also very hands-on. So I've done 10, 15, 20 certifications over the last 20 years. And I find the way that I retain that knowledge is through practically applying that. Some people prefer to read, some people are better at listening, and you got to find what works for that individual, because it's not always going to be the same way. And this is where the bespoke training comes into it. For example, in recent organizations, we identify the gap around the project management fundamentals in operational teams. Now, when we think about project management, it almost always is fixated and focused on the project delivery teams themselves. But how often are we actually spending the time to upskill those that are working in operational functions, such as sales, marketing, human resources, legal, etc., who may not be a direct lead of the projects, but are a direct contributor to the success of projects? They're often neglected and expected to pick it up. And when you think about the billions of dollars spent on project management per annum, well, we need to think about, in order to achieve project management success, we really should also upskill our operational workforce. In fact, I believe that every executive that has anything to do with approving projects or having projects within their portfolio, or that sits on a board, at a bare minimum, needs to understand project management fundamentals. They need to understand the meaning of a critical path. They need to understand how to identify where there is risks and issues that they may not otherwise see without delving into the schedule and other things like that. So this is where I think upskilling the existing workforce is one of the ways that you can help uplift your organization's success overall. Another way of doing so is actually hiring the skills or expertise that you lack in the organization. Organizations should adopt a critical lens that emphasizes identifying skill gaps and then
whether it's technical or a specific domain, operational projects, it doesn't matter. And then strategically recruiting individuals with the required skills and using a targeted method of hiring to ensure that you have the right talent capable of handling both present and future demands. And that in itself will boost your organizational capacity. So I mentioned earlier that one of the things sometimes we help with is boosting capacity. And the reason for that is organizations don't have an unlimited headcount and an unlimited budget to hire permanent staff. And sometimes contract staff may take a long time to find. So this is where they may outsource as part of a solution to a consultancy, or they may look to upskill their existing workforce in some way, shape, or form. So sometimes it's a mixture of both, and it's good for organizations to basically take the time to think about it strategically and really look at, will it be faster and more effective to bring in this skill set, or should I upskill my people, and how long will that take? For example, in our small business, we have less than 10 people at the moment. And one of the things that we want to improve is our ability to run and leverage marketing funnels and ad creation a lot better than we do today. Now, I could probably spend months upskilling my team to get to a point to do that, but that will take them away from other core work that they need to do. So instead, we're actually hiring the skills and expertise and bringing that into the organization, albeit temporarily, to uplift the skills of my team, but also to uplift our outputs in those two particular areas. The third way to uplift capacity within your organization is to simplify your workflow processes. An organization's capacity is often bogged down by complex and inefficient workflows that ultimately hinder productivity. If you think about it, the larger the organization, the more complex and more tangled workflow processes you would have. Because as humans, every time we come into a new role, we likely want to bring our own flavor to things. And by doing so, we will introduce new processes and we will change processes, and maybe we don't spend the time to look at what's there because we're all so busy and we're all rushing. So in taking the time to analyze and streamline processes to simplify your workflow system, then organizations can eliminate bottlenecks, they can reduce redundancy in the system, and improve your operational efficiency. This process will actually allow your organization to accomplish more with the same resources. Effectively, that builds capacity without the need to bring more people on board. So you're saving money by not having to hire more people, but you're actually also saving time by improving the workflow because people can work faster and more efficiently. A really good example of that is we were recently working with a client who was doing product management. And one of the things that they used to do is they would have to spend weeks, at least 2 weeks, trying to go and get all of the different stakeholders who had anything to do with this product in the operational areas to provide their input and their feedback. So they would reach out to sales team, get their input. They reach out to marketing about go to market. They'd have to talk to legal. They'd have to talk to operations, facilitating those conversations, booking those times in, following those people up, and trying to collate all of that information would often take several weeks at a time. So a suggestion I made to the product manager was, instead of doing that, why not try bringing those people to you and running 1 or 2 hour session where you deep dive through the product and get their input all at the same time. You can pre-book this several weeks in advance so people have plenty of notice. And in effect, that will reduce the amount of time you're spending chasing people. She did that and reduced her 2-week turnaround for getting input onto the products to 2 hours. Now that's optimizing your workflow at its potential. And it really did help her moving forward in terms of how she managed product moving product through the life cycle and getting that input. Another way of optimizing capacity or introducing capacity is using some advanced technology. Now, we also know that technology plays a vital role in building organizational capacity. So embracing digital tools and automation can significantly enhance production capacity and reduce the burden on human resources, the people that is. By automating repetitive tasks or implementing advanced software systems, organizations can free up time and resources, allowing employees to focus on higher value activities. This technology-driven approach is not only increasing capacity, but also will drive innovation and help you keep competitive in a rapidly evolving marketplace. Now, one word of warning when it comes to automation is if you automate rubbish processes, rubbish into the system, it will be rubbish out. There is absolutely no point in automating a process into a software without realizing or understanding what the process is and how it works end to end. Because if you've got a complex, arduous, repetitive, inefficient process and you throw that into a technology, you're just going to end up with shit out the other side. So take the time to analyze your processes as mentioned before and optimize them before you automate. One of the most common mistakes organizations make when it comes to project management is they will usually they'll have a lot of complex, inefficient processes. People will complain, they don't get it, they don't understand it. And what they'll do is they'll bring in a project portfolio management tool, or a PPM for short. And they'll bring that in and then they'll start to deploy reporting or resource management or the financial components and linking systems, but they haven't actually spent the time to understand what processes that they will discontinue, what process they will optimize using the technology, and what processes need to be reviewed and revised altogether. So that just creates chaos and people get frustrated. And I almost always see this. The organization, when having a conversation with them about technology, they say the so-and-so product isn't working. We're going to replace it with this one, the shiny new one, the one that, is highest rated, or whatever the case may be. That's a mistake because you're just replacing one problem with another problem. So don't do that. Take the time to actually understand what it is that you're trying to automate before automating. And then the final one is use of time management techniques. So we know we need to prioritize tasks. We need to set realistic deadlines. We need to allocate resources efficiently. We need to ensure optimal production capacity. So by adopting time management techniques, such as using some Agile-based methods or certain aspects of project management frameworks that can really help you optimize the way you deliver, organizations can streamline their workflows, reduce the project delays, and improve overall performance. Efficient time management will help you to maximize your organization's capacity and enable to accomplish more within the same timeframe. One of the ways that we've optimized in our business is reduce the need to have 30-minute meetings for everything. Sometimes a 30-minute meeting could just be 15-minute meetings. In fact, some meetings don't even need 15 minutes. So that's just one small way that you can optimize using time management techniques. Now, with capacity, some key notes to summarize is capacity relates to whether an organization has enough resources, skills, or time to fulfill its objectives. And resources does not just mean people, it could also mean tools. The capacity focuses on optimizing existing resources and streamlining processes. Capacity involves upskilling employees, hiring individuals with lacking skills, or simplifying processes to increase efficiency. Building capacity ensures organizations can handle increased workloads without solely relying on adding more people. Enhancing capacity involves maximizing productivity and achieving more with the same resources. Examples of capacity building strategies include training programs, process optimization, technology adoption when done right, and effective time management skills. Capacity building does not aim to overwhelm employees or compromise the quality of work or outcomes. And capacity building strives to create an environment where individuals and teams can thrive by eliminating unnecessary barriers and optimizing resources. So overall, while capabilities provide the necessary tools, processes, and skilled personnel, capacity acts as the fuel that drives organizational achievement. Striking a balance between capability and capacity is crucial for optimal performance and sustainable growth. Now, regardless of where you are in your journey, whether you are running a small business like myself, whether you're part of a large corporate organization, you're a team lead, you're a manager, or maybe you're just thinking about starting a business, you yourself have the opportunity to improve There's always opportunity to improve. And one of the ways to do that is by looking at ways to optimize your capacity and the capability within your organization. And as I said, if you need a helping hand, then you may want to consider the capability in a box plus solution, which will help you bring in iterative capability in bite-sized chunks to help build up the capacity within your team that helps to bring people together with learning and unity and sustainability. And I'd love to tell you more about that. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out anytime. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Agile Ideas Podcast. Until next time, thank you, and I'll see you all again soon.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please share this with someone or rate it if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to follow us on social media, and to stay up to date with all things Agile Ideas, go to our website www.agilemanagementoffice.com. I hope you've been able to learn, feel, or be inspired today. Until next time, what's your Agile idea?